classes we are talking about the rotational motion in continuation only. In the previous lecture we have discussed about the moment of inertia and torques and angular momentum. So we are going to simply find the relation between the torque and moment of inertia today. And of course we will be looking for the relation between the angular momentum and moment of inertia. So of course when we are talking about the rotational motion, we are having any object, means the rigid body, which can be made to rotate about any axis, z axis, y axis or x axis, that is according to your choice. You can take any axis, like if I am taking y or y dash, then this is the axis about which I am rotating the body. Positions, all the particles are there, uniform body we take. And if we are taking uniform body, it means masses, so you can take equal. If the body is non-uniform, then the point masses will be having the different values. So whatever you suppose, if I am taking the m1, m2, m3 are the masses at the perpendicular distances r1, r2, r3, I am making the body to rotate about this axis with the angular velocity omega. V1, V2, V3 are the linear velocities which are given to the different particles. These all are my suppositions. By my previous knowledge, I know that alpha angular acceleration is given by d omega by dt. We are keeping angular acceleration constant. Linear acceleration, because you know v, it is equals to r omega. So will depend upon the positions r1, r2, r3 if I go with the velocities, and if I go with the relation of the linear acceleration and angular acceleration, that is equals to r alpha. This is simply I'm writing the magnitudes, because when we write it in the vector form, you know v vector it is equals to omega cross r, a vector it is equals to alpha cross r. We are simply writing the magnitudes of linear accelerations here, which is given by, for the first particle if you take, it is given by the r1 alpha. If I am saying this is the first particle, this is r1 distance, m1 is the mass, then you can take a1, it is equals to r1 alpha, and force which will be acting on the body will be given by m1a. So m1a1 means m1 into r1 alpha. And you know when we want to find the torque, maximum value of the torque, when your phi is equals to 90 degree, it's given by Fr. Again, the magnitude of the torque we are talking about for the first particle, torque, it is given by F1 R1. So if I put the value of F1 from here, which is M1 R1 alpha, I can write it as M1 R1 square into alpha. This is the value of torque produced on the first particle. If I take the total torque, which is tau I have taken, which is produced on all the particles, total torque means will be given by adding the sum of all the torques, magnitudes I am talking, maximum value we are taking, that is tau1 plus tau2 plus tau3, so on till tau n. I will be putting this value for the first particle, m1 r1 square alpha plus m2 r2 square alpha plus so on mn rn square alpha. So if I wish to write in the summation form, I can write it as summation of I varies from 1 to n mi ri square into alpha, which is constant, is taken out. This is the value of the moment of inertia, you know, I, moment of inertia of a rigid body, that is given by sum of all these product of the masses and square of the perpendicular distances from the axis of rotation. So this value you can replace simply by I, which is moment of inertia, and I get this relation for the torque. Torque, it can be written as I into alpha. It's very important relation, bache. You all must note it down. So I'm getting torque, it is equals to I alpha. Of course, if I want to define torque in terms of moment of inertia, then I can take, if alpha is 1 unit, then torque can be written as the moment of inertia. Or I can say that the moment of inertia, that is equals to the torque required to produce a unit angular acceleration in the rigid body about the given axis. So this is the relation which you have to simply get by the definition. On the same lines, if you go, you can find the relation between the angular acceleration, angular momentum and moment of inertia. So the next with you is relation between angular momentum and moment of inertia. Again, we are taking the rigid body. Same way we make the body to rotate about any given axis with the angular velocity omega. We are taking v1, v2, v3 linear velocities. Omega is the angular velocity. So for all the particles, we are taking the perpendicular distances like r1, r2. I may take the perpendicular distances for the given axis. You can write the values for v1, which is equals to r1 omega, v2 it is equals to r2 omega, and so on. Now if you find the linear momentum of the first particle, that is given by m1 v1, and of course linear momentum we denote by small p. So I am getting p1 it is equals to m1 v1, and v1 it is equals to r1 omega. So if you put the value here, I am getting m1 r1 omega. Omega is constant. So the moment of linear momentum, it means angular momentum if I take about the given axis, which is denoted by L. L is given by P into R. So for the first particle L1, it is given by P1 into R1. R1 is the perpendicular distance. Again, the maximum value we are taking, that L it is equals to MVR. So otherwise you may write L it is equals to MVR also. This is the general formula for the maximum value. If I take means sine phi it is equals to 1 or phi equals to 90 degree. I apply the force at 90 degree. So this value we are getting for L1, it is coming out to be M1 R1 square into omega. This is the linear moment, your angular momentum for the first particle about the given axis L1. Similarly, if you want to find the total angular momentum for the n particles, it will be given by simply adding L1, L2, L3, so on till Ln I get, and I am getting M1 R1 square into omega plus M2 R2 square into omega, and so on. So I can again write it to summation form. Of course, for the uniform body, we can do by the integration method also. I can replace this by integration. That also can be done. So both the ways it will be correct. I have simply taken the relation by taking the simple method. You may go with the integration method also. So this is I am getting summation mi square into omega. This summation mi square it is equals to moment of inertia. So I am getting L magnitude. Of course, we are taking the maximum value of L, that is equals to I omega. Once you got this relation, again you can define moment of inertia in terms of angular momentum. Like if I am taking the angular velocity as 1 unit, then L can be written equals to I. Or I can say moment of inertia, it is equals to the angular momentum produced when the angular velocity is unity. So that way you can define, if in the exam they are asking for 1 mark that you define in a particular way, then you should know the relation, you should be able to work out with the things, means this relation should be there, and you can apply the limiting case, and then you can work out with the things. The conservation of angular momentum, similar to the conservation of linear momentum. There we said for an isolated system, when no external force is acting, then linear momentum is constant. Similar to that, if no external torque is acting, it means if the external torque acting on a system is 0, then dl by dt it is equals to 0, or I can say L it is equals to constant, or angular momentum it is equals to constant. So you can say that here L, because it is equals to I omega, I have taken the relation of L in terms of omega. So I can write L, it is equals to I omega, that is equals to constant. Able to change the moment of inertia of a body by any means by changing the R of this, because I it is equals to mr square. So for a given system, for a given location, if I am taking I1 omega 1, that is equals to I2 omega 2. Or I can say if I increase the moment of inertia, angular velocity decreases and vice versa. So this is the conservation of angular momentum, and again this relation of L and I is helping me to explain many things which are occurring in nature. These things we can explain, we can call it as the applications of law of conservation of angular momentum, or they ask you to explain, then you can think that this particular phenomenon I can explain by using the law of conservation of angular momentum. Like when we talk about the planetary motion, we said the Kepler's second law, that when if I'm moving from A to B, so this is the area covered with me. Now if I'm moving from C to D, then this is the area covered with me. Now if timings are equal, I said that your area covered will be equals. This was my Kepler's second law, dA by dt is constant. Now what is happening to the angular velocity? Here when we talk about the planetary motion, when I talk about the angular velocity, then of course when I'm changing I, omega is getting changed accordingly. Years to keep the system isolated means the total torque, no external torque is acting on the system. This is angular momentum conservation is valid. So L it is equals to constant. So this thing you can explain by having the knowledge of conservation of angular momentum, that how the area swept that is remaining the constant. So this can be explained on the basis of law of conservation. Similarly, if you take a person who is carrying the weights and his hands, okay, and when the person is bringing the hands closer or moving the hands apart, when it is bringing the hands closer, it means R, when closer, then R is less. R is less means I is less, because I it is equals to mr square, so omega will be more. So it can change its angular speed by simply changing the position of the hands. When R is greater, then of course I will be greater and omega will be less. Because L is constant, simply he can change, he can adjust his angular speed of the turntable on which the person is standing by simply bringing his hands close and apart. So when bringing close, R is getting reduced. When moving apart, R is getting increased, and hence the angular velocity is getting changed. So once angular momentum conservation is clear, so you can explain many examples. Like similar to this, the ice skater or a ballet dancer can increase her angular speed simply by folding her arms and bringing legs close to each other, because I1 omega 1 it is equals to I2. So this is same formula with you. You have to use, you have to see the location, how the R is changing, and by that you can explain the change in the angular momentum and hence the change in the angular velocity. Change in the moment of inertia and hence the change in the angular velocity. So moment of inertia is getting changed by changing the R, distance. So when the person is bringing the arms or legs close, means R is getting decreased. So moment of inertia decreases, because you know I it is equals to, you all know the formula, R I it is equals to mr square. So you can see that because I is directly proportional to R, but it is inversely proportional to omega. So I can write here that I1 upon I2, that is equals to omega 2 upon omega. So if you know the I, it is coming inversely to omega. So inverse relation is there. Similarly, on the same basis, we can explain this. The inner layers of a tornado is high because again R is less, so I is less, so omega has to be more. And a diver which is jumping from the springboard while having a jump into the water is able to perform somersault simply by bringing his hands closer or apart, can change its angular speed and can perform the somersault. The same way you can explain all these examples. On the basis of this only, there is one question with you. Question which I am reading for you. That what will be the duration of the day if the earth suddenly shrinks to 1 upon 64 of its original volume? Given to you, mass is remaining the same. So original volume, if I take with the r radius, that I know earth is a sphere. It's a solid sphere. So I can write the volume that is equals to 4 by 3 pi r cube. Now, according to question, it is shrinking to 1 upon 64 of its original volume. So, if original volume is V, then the new volume I can say V dash, that is equals to V upon 64, that is as per the question given. Now, if I suppose that R dash is the new radius, then I can put the value here. V dash will be equals to 1 upon 64 of V. So this is simply R and this is R dash. V dash, it is equals to V upon 64. So V, it is equals to 4 by 3 pi r cube. So you can write 1 upon V value you can write here, and V dash I can take R dash as the new. So on solving I am getting R dash, it is equals to R upon 2. That you can work out. So when R dash is known, now by the conservation of angular momentum, you know, I dash omega dash, it is equals to I omega, and I for the solid sphere, that is equals to 2 by 5 mr square. This is the moment of inertia for a solid sphere, that is 2 by 5 mr square. So because here radius is r dash, so I have written r dash here, and here radius is r, so I have written r. But the general formula, which is 2 by 5 mr square, that moment of inertia for a solid sphere you can use from your previous knowledge. Omega, it is given by 2 pi by t. So you can put the value for omega dash, that is equals to 2 pi by t dash. And here if I have to put for omega, this is 2 pi by t. So now you need to work out the question, because r dash upon r is given, r dash upon r you can find, that is equals to 1 by, or I can say r dash is equals to r by 4. So here I can put the value of r dash, which is equals to r by 4. And then I can work out time period for the earth. Normally when we are taking, the time period is 24 hours. So you will be getting t, it is equals to 24. So by simply putting the value, you can find the t dash. So time period now is coming out to be 1.5 hours. So it means if the earth is shrinking, then time period is decreasing. Time period means, of course, the time taken to complete one revolution. So this way you can find the value of the new time period when the earth is shrinking. but of course they have said mass is remaining the same. So that is why m on both the sides is taken same, that will cancel. So similar to this, you can be asked other questions also. So you need to keep trying. So you keep things up to this. Thank you everyone.